Liam Hart stood at the edge of the grand hall, his hands clasped behind his back. The Calreen Palace was unlike anything he had ever seen. Tall silver arches that seemed to hum softly, glowing vines curling across crystal walls, and a deep, blue carpet stretching toward a throne that looked like it had grown out of the floor. The air was cool, almost too clean, and every alien eye in the room was fixed on him. This was not his first diplomatic mission, but it was the first where he was the only human in the room. And not just any room, the court of the Calreen Empire, a place where humans had never been truly welcome. At the far end sat Princess Serenia, the youngest daughter of Emperor Varys. Her reputation was sharp and unyielding. She was known for ending negotiations with a single cutting sentence. Her gown shimmered like liquid starlight, and her silver eyes were cold, measuring him as though weighing every possible trick he might try. Liam took a slow breath. His orders were simple: maintain calm, avoid offense, and open the first line of peace talks. But simple didn't mean easy. An attendant called his name in the Calreen tongue, announcing him to the court. Liam stepped forward, each step echoing in the vast chamber. When he reached the dais, he bowed, not too low, not too quick. Then, without a word, he reached into the small case he carried and took out a single, carefully preserved flower. It was an earth bloom, rare even back home, with soft white petals and a faint golden center. He placed it gently on the small table beside her, a gesture meant to say more than words could: peace, goodwill, and a bridge between worlds. There was a long silence. The princess's gaze moved from the flower to his face. "Why are you being so kind, human?" she asked suddenly, her voice slicing through the still air. "What do you really want?" the courtiers murmured among themselves. Liam could feel every stare pressing against him. He knew her tone wasn't just suspicion, it was accusation. He met her eyes. "Sometimes kindness is given because it should be," he said quietly. "Not because it will be repaid." She tilted her head, her expression unreadable. "Humans do nothing without reason. I have read your history." "Then maybe you should see us in the present," Liam replied, his voice calm but steady. Her eyes narrowed, but she said nothing more. Instead, she gestured for an attendant to take the flower away. To Liam, it was unclear whether that was rejection or just protocol. The rest of the meeting moved forward stiffly. Matters of trade, border disputes, and old grievances filled the air like heavy smoke. Liam kept his voice measured, avoiding challenges, but he noticed that the princess rarely looked at him directly. When she did, her gaze seemed to search for something: weakness, deception, or perhaps a hidden motive. After the formal session ended, Liam was escorted to the guest quarters. The halls were lined with tall windows showing a view of the Calreen capital, shimmering towers wrapped in glowing vines, with flying ships moving like quiet birds through the sky. His room was comfortable but unfamiliar. Walls made of crystal panels shifted color depending on the angle of the light. The bed looked more like a nest than anything he had slept in before. Just as he was settling in, there was a knock, soft but deliberate. When he opened the door, the princess stood there alone. "You were sent here by your Alliance Council," she said, stepping inside without asking. "Tell me the real reason. Is it minerals, technology, a military foothold?" Liam stayed still. "I'm here to stop a war before it starts." Her eyes flashed. "Words, pretty words. Your kind are good at them." She moved closer, as if testing his reaction. "If you think I will be charmed by your politeness, you are wrong. I'm not here to charm you," he said simply. "I'm here because peace is worth trying for, even when no one believes it can happen." She studied him in silence for a moment, then turned toward the door. Before leaving, she said, We'll see if your actions match your words, human." The next morning, Liam's first assignment from the Calreen Council arrived. It wasn't what he expected. Instead of a diplomatic discussion, he was asked, by the princess herself, to mediate a dispute between two rival merchant clans. The case involved shipping rights for vital resources, and the rivalry had lasted for decades. It was a task designed to frustrate him. Neither side trusted humans, and both seemed determined to insult him at every turn. But Liam listened carefully, asked questions, and worked out a trade rotation schedule that gave each clan equal profit over time. By the end, neither side looked happy, but neither stormed out either. When he reported back to the princess, she studied his face for signs of arrogance or satisfaction. Finding none, she gave a short nod and said only, "Acceptable." Over. The next several days, more tasks arrived, helping restore a damaged historical archive after a sudden storm, assisting in relocating refugee families from the border to safer districts. None of these were glamorous, and all of them took long hours of work. Through it all, Liam refused any payment or reward. When Calreen nobles asked him what he hoped to gain, he always gave the same answer: a reason for our people not to fight. The princess watched all of this from a distance. Her advisors whispered in her ear, warning her that no human could be this selfless. Still, she kept testing him. Late one evening, as he returned from another exhausting task, Liam saw her waiting in the corridor. "You keep helping," she said, her voice softer now, though still guarded. "But no one does this without wanting something." Liam gave a small shrug. "Maybe I just want to leave this world better than I found it." She didn't reply. But for the first time since he arrived, she didn't look at him with pure suspicion. Still, Liam could tell this was only the beginning of whatever test she had planned for him. The morning light in the Calreen capital was always strange to Liam. Instead of a rising sun, the sky shifted from deep indigo to a pale silver glow as the planet's rings caught and reflected the nearby star. It made everything look softer, almost dreamlike, though Liam knew life here was anything but gentle. He had been in the Calreen Palace for just over a week, and every day brought a new assignment from Princess Serenia. They were always framed as helping her people, but Liam could sense they were also tests. She wanted to see him fail. That morning, a palace messenger appeared at his door with the next task. "Her Highness requests your assistance in the outer district," the messenger said, handing him a thin crystal tablet. "You are to resolve a dispute at the water harvesting facility." Liam scanned the tablet. The dispute was between a group of engineers and the station guards. Both claimed control over the water flow system, a vital lifeline in this arid region of the planet. The trip to the outer district was long, involving a hovercraft ride through winding causeways suspended over glowing wetlands. When Liam arrived, he found the situation already tense. The engineers accused the guards of hoarding water for military use, while the guards claimed the engineers were diverting too much for private profit. Voices were raised, and several Calreen were armed. Not a good sign. Liam stepped forward, raising his hands in a calm gesture. "Let's stop shouting," he said evenly. "No one here is my enemy, so let's act like it." Some ignored him, but others turned to listen. Over the next 2 hours, he walked both sides through their claims, studying the water flow charts and interviewing workers. Eventually, he suggested a temporary distribution schedule that would be reviewed weekly by a neutral third party. It wasn't perfect, but both sides agreed, reluctantly. As Liam left, one of the engineers muttered, "Strange. The human didn't take a side." When Liam returned to the palace, Princess Serenia was waiting in the council chamber. "I hear there was no fight," she said, her tone almost disappointed. "Fighting doesn't solve the water shortage," Liam replied. "Talking does." She studied him, her silver eyes narrowing. "Perhaps. But talk can also hide the truth. And I wonder what truth you hide, human. Maybe you'll find out." Liam said, not unkindly. The next day's task was far more personal. Serenia summoned him to her private audience room, a smaller, warmer chamber with curved walls lined in shimmering fabric. "Today," she said, "you will assist with the archives." "Restoring documents?" Liam asked. "Not exactly. You will carry my family's records through the lower city to the temple for preservation. You will do this alone, and without palace escort." Liam understood the risk instantly. The lower city was a maze of crowded markets, narrow alleys, and people who didn't trust outsiders. Carrying royal records could make him a target. Still, he accepted. The journey through the lower city was as tense as expected. Calrine merchants stopped talking when they saw him. Others whispered in their native tongue. Halfway to the temple, 3 cloaked figures blocked his path. "Those are imperial archives," one said in accented trade speech. "They belong to the people, not the throne." Liam kept his voice calm. "They're going to the temple for preservation. They'll still belong to your people, just protected." The tallest one stepped closer. "You speak like a diplomat, but you're just a human pawn." Liam could have argued, but instead he opened the case just enough to show the sealed record scrolls. "If you want to destroy your history, you'll have to explain to every citizen here why you did it." The figures hesitated, exchanged glances, then turned and vanished into the crowd. Liam delivered the archives without further trouble. When he reported back, Serenia raised an eyebrow. "No injuries, no theft." "Just words," Liam said. "You seem to rely on them often," she replied. "We shall see if they are enough when real danger comes." Real danger arrived sooner than either of them expected. 3 days later, Liam accompanied the princess on a tour of the disputed border district, one of the few times she allowed him to be directly in her presence outside the palace. The border was marked by tall, jagged spires of black stone with patrol towers at each end. Tension here was always high. Any wrong move could be seen as aggression. They were halfway through the inspection when a sudden pulse of light exploded nearby. The shockwave knocked several guards to the ground. Liam reacted instantly. He grabbed Serenia's arm and pulled, her behind a large rock formation as a second blast hit, sending shards of stone into the air. "Stay down," he ordered, scanning the ridges for movement. Shapes moved against the horizon, too quick to be regular patrols. Liam spotted the glint of weapons. Without thinking, he stepped out, using his body to shield her as the guards regrouped. He fired a flare into the air, signaling for reinforcements. One of the attackers aimed directly at them, but a palace guard managed to intercept before the shot landed. The entire skirmish lasted less than 2 minutes, but it felt like an eternity. When the attackers retreated, Liam finally let out a slow breath. Serenia stared at him, her expression unreadable. "You could have stayed behind the rock. You could have let my guards protect me." "Your guards were scattered," Liam said, simply. "I was closer." She shook her head slightly. "You risked your life for someone you barely know. Why?" "Because no one should die over pride and fear," he answered. She didn't reply right away. Instead, she turned away and ordered the escort to take them back to the palace. Later that evening, Liam received a sealed note in his quarters. "Tomorrow we speak in private. Serenia." He knew this meant something had shifted. Maybe not trust, not yet, but perhaps the first crack in the wall between them. The next day, in her private chamber, she dismissed her attendants and faced him alone. "You confuse me. Human," she said. "You act without demanding reward. You take risks without gaining advantage. It is illogical." "Maybe logic isn't the only thing worth following," Liam replied. She paced slowly, her gaze fixed on the floor. "My advisors tell me to end these tests. They say you are either a fool or a threat." "And you?" Liam asked. "I think you are dangerous," she said, her voice low. "Because you make me doubt what I have always believed about your kind." There was a pause, heavy with unspoken thoughts. Then she turned to him and said, "The next task will not be in the city. It will be on the frontier. There, we will see your true nature." Liam met her eyes. "I'll be ready." She didn't smile, but for the first time, her gaze softened, just a fraction, before she looked away. Students who once ignored him now gave polite nods in the hall. Some who had laughed at him for years tried to start friendly conversations. The teachers treated him with sudden respect, calling him Young Prince or Your Highness. But Ethan wasn't sure if he liked it. The kindness felt hollow, as if it came not from genuine change, but from fear of his mother. And while the bullies no longer dared to touch him, he noticed them whispering together, throwing quick glances his way. He knew trouble wasn't gone, just hidden. That morning, the academy received another unusual visitor, a squad of Valori. Imperial guards entered the main hall, moving with perfect discipline. Their leader, a tall officer with silver armor, asked for Ethan by name. "Your mother has requested that you begin formal training," the officer said. "Your studies here will continue, but you will also receive instruction from Imperial combat tutors." The announcement drew quiet gasps from the nearby students. Imperial combat training was legendary. It was said that even basic lessons from the Valori could turn someone into a skilled fighter. Ethan agreed to attend. Part of him wanted to learn, not just because his mother expected it, but because he was tired of being seen as weak. The training began that afternoon in a private section of the station, far from the academy's main facilities. The training hall was large and bright, its floor made of a strange material that seemed to shift slightly underfoot, adjusting to each movement. His first instructor was Captain Varen, a veteran Valori warrior with skin the color of bronze and eyes like molten gold. "You are half human," Varen said as he circled Ethan. "That means your body will be different from ours. Weaker in some ways, but perhaps stronger in others. We will find out." The early exercises focused on balance and reaction speed. Varen threw small, weighted discs toward Ethan without warning, forcing him to dodge. Ethan missed many at first, but quickly began to notice patterns in Varen's throws. He adapted, using quick footwork to avoid the hits. "Good," Varen said, nodding. "You think while you move. Most young warriors rely only on speed or strength. You use your mind. That is human." After the physical drills came strategy training. Varen projected holograms of simulated battlefields, asking Ethan to choose the best paths for movement and attack. Ethan surprised him by choosing routes that looked risky but often resulted in quick victories. "You are unorthodox," Varen said. "You do not follow the standard patterns. Keep that. It is dangerous to your enemies." By the third day, word of Ethan's training had spread through the academy. Some students were curious, others resentful. Jex, the bully with crystal horns, watched him closely, his expression unreadable. One afternoon, during a lunch break, Jex approached. "So," Jex said, "you're learning to fight now? Going to come after me next?" "No," Ethan replied calmly. "But if you try something, I'll be ready." Jex smirked. "We'll see." 2 weeks later, the Academy announced its annual interspecies tournament. It was a major event with different teams competing in strategy, agility, and combat challenges. Students from all grades participated, and the matches were watched by families, visitors, and, in this case, Imperial guests. As soon as the announcement was made, Ethan knew the bullies would try to use it against him. And he was right. Jex and his friends entered the tournament, and so did he. When the tournament day arrived, the central arena buzzed with noise. The audience sat in tiered seats, while the center of the arena transformed, depending on the challenge. The first round was an obstacle course in partial gravity. Ethan's human legs were slower than most, but he used careful timing and creative shortcuts to finish in the top 10. The second round tested teamwork. Each group had to carry a heavy energy core through a maze while being targeted by harmless, stun drones. Ethan's team worked well at first, but halfway through, one of his teammates, deliberately or not, dropped the core, forcing Ethan to carry it alone. Instead of slowing down, he shifted the weight onto his shoulder and moved. Through a side route, avoiding most of the drones. His team finished second. Then came the combat round. Participants were matched in one-on-one duels using training weapons with low-power stun settings. When Ethan's name was called, the crowd stirred. It was his turn to face Jex. They stepped into the arena, both holding stun staffs. Jex smirked, twirling his weapon casually. "Ready to be embarrassed in front of your mother's people?" he said. Ethan didn't answer. The bell sounded. Jex charged immediately, swinging fast and hard. Ethan blocked, the impact vibrating through his arms. Jex pressed the attack, forcing Ethan backward. But Ethan had learned something from Varen. Never move where your opponent wants you to. Instead of retreating in a straight line, he sidestepped, sharply, making Jex stumble slightly. Using the opening, Ethan struck at Jex's staff, knocking it wide, then tapped his chest with the stun tip. A flash of blue light signaled a point scored. The crowd murmured. Jex's smirk faded. He attacked again, more carefully this time. But Ethan adjusted, using feints and sudden shifts in direction. His movements weren't perfect, but they were unpredictable, and that gave him an edge. After several exchanges, Ethan scored again. Now visibly frustrated, Jex tried a risky overhead strike. Ethan ducked, spun behind him, and tapped his back. Third point. Match over. The arena erupted in cheers and surprise. Jex stood frozen for a moment before lowering his weapon, his face flushed with anger. From the stands, Ethan's mother, the Empress, watched with an expression of quiet pride. When he looked up at her, she gave a small nod. And for the first time, Ethan felt he had earned it, not because of his title, but because of his own effort. As the tournament continued, Ethan found himself approached by students who once avoided him, asking for advice or offering congratulations. But he knew not everyone was happy with his success. In the corner of the arena, a small group of older students watched him with narrow eyes, whispering among themselves. Trouble was still out there, and deep down, Ethan sensed that defeating school bullies was just the beginning. Far bigger challenges were coming, ones that would test not just his skill, but the strength of who he was becoming. The week after the tournament passed quickly for Ethan. His victory over Jex had changed how people looked at him. It wasn't just fear of his mother now. Many students had seen his skill with their own eyes. Some were impressed, some jealous, and some resentful. But Ethan didn't let it get to his head. He kept attending his Imperial training with Captain Varen, learning more about strategy, movement, and discipline. Varen often reminded him, strength means nothing without control. An undisciplined fighter is their own worst enemy. 1. Quiet morning? Ethan was in the Academy's library reviewing tactical simulations when the floor beneath him trembled. At first it was faint, like a distant vibration. But within seconds, the tremor grew into a deep rhythmic thud that rattled the shelves. Alarms blared through the station's hallways. Alert! Unidentified vessels have entered restricted space. All non-combat personnel remain inside secure. Zones! Students and staff looked around in alarm. Through the large library windows, Ethan could see streaks of light in the distance, ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Then he saw something that made his stomach tighten. The ships were not Valori Imperial craft. They were painted in jagged black and red patterns, their hulls lined with sharp spines. Pirates. They were known as the Skarn Marauders, a group feared across several systems for raiding stations, taking hostages, and looting anything valuable. Within minutes, the Academy was on lockdown. Security drones hovered at hallway junctions, and teachers hurried students toward the reinforced central hall. But Ethan noticed something odd as he was being led there. Security was stretched thin. Many guards were rushing toward the station's outer ring to intercept the intruders. That meant the Academy section, which was farther from the main docking bays, might be less defended than it should be. As they reached the central hall, the loud boom of distant explosions shook the walls. The sound of laser fire echoed faintly, from far away. Captain Varen appeared at the entrance, armor strapped on, weapon in hand. His face was grim. "The Marauders have breached the outer ring," he announced. "They are moving inward. Some may try to reach the academy to capture high-value targets." A wave of murmurs ran through the students. High-value targets meant people with important connections, like children of diplomats, officers, and Ethan. Varen's gaze found him immediately. "Your Highness, your mother's flagship is on its way. Until then, you stay with me." The first sign of trouble came faster than anyone expected. A section of the Academy's west corridor lost. Power and emergency lights flickered on. Moments later, a security drone zipped into the hall, its voice urgent. "Intruders detected in Sector 7. Varen's expression hardened. "That's close to the training dome. We can't let them through," he ordered the Academy guards to hold the main entrances while he, Ethan, and 2 other Imperial soldiers moved toward Sector 7. As they reached the junction, Ethan saw 3 Skarn Marauders forcing open a sealed bulkhead. They were tall and armored, with jagged masks and glowing red eyes. Varen and his soldiers moved first, engaging them with quick, precise strikes. Ethan stayed back at first, but one of the Marauders slipped past and came straight toward him. Training kicked in. Ethan sidestepped the first swing, his smaller size letting him move quicker than the bulky attacker expected. He grabbed a metal rod from the wall's maintenance rack and swung it low, striking the Marauder's leg. The alien staggered and Ethan followed with a sharp shove, knocking him against the bulkhead. Varen finished the other 2 and glanced at Ethan. "Not bad, but don't get cocky." They pushed forward, sealing doors behind them to slow any more. Intruders. But as they approached the training dome, the sound of a struggle reached their ears. Inside, several older students and a teacher were cornered by a group of Marauders. Varen was about to charge in when Ethan noticed something. The Marauders were focused on the center of the group, where a young girl with pale blue skin was crouched. She was the daughter of a high-ranking council member. If they took her, the pirates could demand nearly anything in exchange. "Varen, they want her," Ethan whispered. "If we move fast, we can distract them before they get close." Varen gave a quick nod. "You take the left flank. We'll hit the right." On Varen's signal, Ethan slipped inside, keeping low behind equipment crates. One of the Marauders spotted him and turned to engage, giving Varen and his soldiers the chance to attack from the other side. Using the element of surprise, Ethan swung his rod at the attacker's weapon arm, knocking it aside. The alien snarled, but Ethan darted back, forcing him to follow and leaving his back exposed. Varen took the opening and struck him down. Within minutes, the dome was clear. The teacher quickly led the students to safety, thanking Ethan with wide eyes. As they regrouped, Varen's communicator buzzed. "Captain, the Marauders are retreating," a voice reported. "Imperial flagship has arrived in orbit. Outside." The station windows, Ethan could see it. The massive silver and gold ship of his mother's fleet sliding into position, its presence dominating the void. Smaller Velori interceptors swarmed around it, chasing the pirate vessels. Varen glanced at Ethan. "Your mother will be here soon. Today you fought like someone worthy of your name." Not long after, the Academy's main hall doors opened, and the Empress herself entered, her soldiers fanning out behind her. Her eyes scanned the room until they found Ethan. She walked straight to him, placing both hands on his shoulders. "I heard what you did," she said quietly. "You protected others. You fought without fear. I am proud." For the first time, Ethan felt that her pride wasn't just because he was her son. It was because of what he had done. But even as relief washed over him, he couldn't shake the thought that this attack had been more than random piracy. The Marauders had gone straight for high-value targets. They had known exactly where to strike, and that meant someone, somewhere, had told them. 2 weeks after the field drill, the Academy received an unexpected order from the station command. A deep space cargo vessel had sent a distress signal near the asteroid belt outside the neutral zone. The Academy was to send a small team of senior cadets to assist, part rescue, part evaluation. The mission would be dangerous. Asteroid belts were unpredictable, with debris moving at incredible speeds. And according to the signal, there was more than just mechanical failure. Something was pursuing the ship. When the team assignments were posted, Ethan's name was there, so was Care's. The briefing room was tense. The instructor explained the situation. The cargo ship Vesra is trapped between two dense asteroid clusters. Life support is failing. Unknown hostiles have been detected on board. Your job is to extract the crew and secure the ship's navigation logs. The cadets exchanged uneasy glances. Hostiles could mean pirates, rogue drones, or worse. You'll be split into two groups, the instructor continued. Group 1 secures the bridge and retrieves the logs. Group 2 clears the engineering section and stabilizes life support. Prince Ethan, you'll lead Group 2. Some cadets looked surprised. Care smirked faintly but said nothing. The shuttle ride to the Vesra was silent except for the hum of the engines. When they arrived, the ship's outer hull loomed in the viewport, scarred and pitted from asteroid strikes. As soon as they docked, the air inside the cargo ship hit them, stale, metallic, with the faint smell of burning wires. The corridors were dim, lit only by flickering emergency strips. Stay alert, Ethan told his team. Helmets sealed, weapons ready. They moved quickly toward engineering. The further they went, the more signs of struggle they found. Scorch marks on the walls, torn wires, and equipment scattered across the floor. Then came the sound, a faint clicking echoing through the corridors. Rin, walking just behind Ethan, whispered, "That's not machinery." Before Ethan could answer, a shape darted across the hallway ahead, low, fast, and metallic. "Contact!" one cadet shouted. The thing lunged from the shadows. A rogue security drone, its plating dented and its optical sensors glowing red. It moved with jerky, unnatural speed. Ethan fired, hitting its leg joint. Sparks flew and the drone crashed to the floor, still twitching. "Keep moving," Ethan ordered. "We don't know how many more there are." When they reached engineering, they found the door sealed. The controls were dead, probably fried by a power surge. "We'll have to bypass manually," Ethan said, kneeling to open the panel. His fingers worked quickly, remembering the repair lessons he'd learned from the station's maintenance crew. As he worked, Care's voice crackled over comms from the bridge team. "Prince, you'd better hurry. We've got company here, too." A loud clang echoed from the corridor behind them. More clicking. Rin raised her weapon. "We've got incoming!" Two more drones appeared, their claws snapping as they charged. Ethan sealed the panel and stood, grabbing his weapon. "Hold them!" The fight was chaotic in the narrow corridor. One drone slammed into the wall near Rin, denting the metal. Another grabbed a cadet's arm, sparks flying as its claws scraped against the armor. Ethan swung his rifle like a club, smashing the drone's sensor before firing point blank into its chest. When the last one fell, smoking, Ethan turned back to the panel. The bypass was complete. The engineering door slid open with a groan. Inside, the room was a mess. Consoles were shattered, coolant lines leaking across the floor. Two crew members huddled near the reactor, their faces pale. "We're here to get you out," Ethan said quickly. "But first, we need to stabilize life support." The older of the two crew members pointed to a large cylinder leaking gas. "Oxygen. Recycler's damaged. We've been rerouting, but it won't hold much longer." Ethan and Rin worked fast. She patched the leaks while he rerouted power to the backup systems. When the recycler finally hummed back to life, the crew let out a shaky breath. "You saved us," one whispered. Comms crackled again. It was Care. "Bridge secured. We've got the logs. Hostiles retreating. Get to the pickup point." Ethan's group moved quickly, guiding the rescued crew through the damaged corridors. They were almost to the docking bay when the lights flickered, and a warning siren blared. "Asteroid impact detected." The ship's computer droned. The floor shook violently. A massive groan echoed through the hull. Rin stumbled. That was close! Move! Ethan urged. We don't have much time! In the docking bay, both teams regrouped. The instructor's voice came through the comms from the shuttle. Everyone, aboard now! As they boarded, another impact rattled the ship. Debris scraped against the shuttle's outer hull as it undocked and pulled away. Through the viewport, Ethan watched as the Vesra slowly drifted into the asteroid field. The damage, too severe to repair on site, but the crew was safe and the navigation logs secure. Back on the station, the debriefing was short. The instructor praised both teams but singled out Ethan. Group 2 completed their objectives without losing a single member. That's good. Leadership. Care glanced at him, the usual mockery absent. For the first time, his expression was unreadable. Later that evening, Ethan stood by the large observation window in the Academy's central hall. The stars outside seemed brighter, sharper. He thought about the last few months, the bullying, the reveal of his mother's identity, the training, the tournament, and now this mission. He hadn't chosen to be the Empress's son, but he was starting to understand what it meant to carry that name, and that it wasn't just about power, it was about responsibility. He heard footsteps behind him. Turning, he saw Lariel approaching. "You handled yourself well today," she said. "I just did what needed to be done," Ethan replied. "That," she said softly, "is what makes a true leader." She rested a hand on his shoulder. "You have my blood, Ethan, but more importantly, you have your father's heart. Never forget either." For the first time in a long while, Ethan smiled. "I won't." And though he knew challenges would still come, rivals, tests, dangers he couldn't yet imagine, he felt ready for them. Because now, he wasn't just the quiet human boy. At the Academy, he was Prince Ethan Valori. And the galaxy was beginning to notice.